We are delighted that you're joining us for another podcast of Wake Up Aligned, and it is the podcast for chiropractors, where we get to talk about chiropractic lifestyle, and topics of interest. You can contact us through our email, and that is mailbag@amcfamily.com. I want to welcome everybody back to another exciting podcast with Wake Up Aligned, and I am your host, Dr. Shannon McMurtry. I'm here with a good friend of mine, a mentor, Dr. Zach Wilson. Hello, Dr. Zach. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for having me back on.
I appreciate you joining us again. So, it's big shoes to fill, Tom's absent. So, you got to bring all the stuff that he is typically bringing on the podcast. No pressure, though. Right?
No pressure.
I didn't intend to do this. This is really going to be a part 3 of a topic that we did a 2-parter on before. And it was comparative exercise. And really talking about comparisons in a much more broad and deeper way with our patients. And quite frankly, just bringing our mentality up to speed. I don't go to the doctor. If I go to the doctor, I've got to be, almost near death. So I just don't have an appreciation, a working knowledge on what's going outside of the chiropractic world, because that's what I know. That's what I see. So I just wanted to get your thoughts about it. That's a new concept for you as well. And really just dialogue back and forth on that comparison exercise, going to it in a much more broad way, and also how we bring that into our culture of the clinic with the staff and that kind of stuff. So before we really get going, though, I'd like to do some shout outs.
You should.
We have some really amazing things happening. First of all, Dr. Kobe Perkins. Dr. Kobe is in Texas, and he is officially 4 times over where he started back in the day, and that's very exciting for him. We have a Dr. Bushman, who is 5,000 over where he started, but listen, that he did that and he took a week off to go.
He went way down. Where?
I think he went to the Bahamas.
Yeah, Bahamas. That's what I heard.
Yeah, so I'd like to do 5,000 more than my average and take a week off and go to the Bahamas. That's not too shabby. Right? Here's one I'm super proud of, because this guy latched on to a concept of value and what we're really worth to our patients, Dr. Headland. And he is at a 187 CVA. That means for an average chiropractic patient visit, he collects $187, which is not too shabby. And he's on track to have over $150,000 in growth this year over last year. And my understanding is we're not doing growth in terms of patient visits so much. It's
Correct.
All on the value and the revenue side. So that's super exciting.
Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah, that's something that I try to do, but I don't know if I do a really good job at it myself. So
Hey.
A couple of others here. Dr. Sheila, she is already eclipsed last year. We're through the month of October. That's all the data we've got this year so far. I don't know when this podcast is going to drop, but through October for her this year, she's already eclipsed everything that she did the previous year in terms of patient visits and new patients and collections and services. So that's super exciting. For her, the last 8 weeks of the year are basically icing on the cake.
Right?
And that's nice. And then I have one that I'm working with personally, and really proud of her. She is a superstar, has a wonderful clinic, has always been a very high level type of person. That's Dr. Polly. And she is on pace to do over 1.1 million this year. Her best year ever was 2 years ago, and we were at 1.2. And then she had some changeover inside of the team, and just those disruptions that happen, and it backed down a little bit. Boo-hoo, 900,000, and now she's up again. So I'm really, really happy with her and happy for her. What I really like about that is how she's approaching it. She's She's typical entrepreneur where I've got hands in many pies, right? I can't
Sure.
let go. And she's learning to manage a team better, learning to groom an office manager, which is taking.
That's what I
pressure.
heard. Miss
Yeah.
Donnell, right? She got
Yeah.
promoted up and
That's
stepped into that
exactly.
leadership role in her
Yeah.
office. I heard about that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that becomes required as you're growing
Yeah.
higher levels to understand just what you're talking about is being able to offload and good
And
job.
I think Donnell's going to do a really good job with it. Not saying she's not doing a good job now, but
Right.
there's a learning process. You would think, well, now I'm the office manager, so now I have a relationship with the employees and the new employees. That's not only true, right? She's learning office manager as she's leading a team of employees. She's also in a different relationship with her owner.
Mm-hmm.
The owner is in a different relationship with now the office manager. They're both learning to trust each other in these roles. And that's the hard part about these transitions is we want other people to do it great, but they're not going to be a natural at it. It's a trial and error process. You're learning from your mistakes. So I keep counseling them, especially Dr. Hedinger. We got to give grace. We got to give forgiveness. We have to be patient. Everybody's going to make mistakes in this process. But yeah, super excited about them, for them. And I don't think they're done yet. So you got anybody on your list you want to talk about?
Well, I don't know if you had heard with Dr. Amanda Green. She's been really stepping it up. At this last summit, she got up. She was able to express all the different changes that she's noticed in her own self and her clinic over this last year. I'm just super proud of her. I know my wife, Sharice, she's the CA mentor for that office. And Sharice always has so much good to say about that office and that team, how hard they're working to improve and to grow and to learn all of this together and just be cohesive. And so, I don't know, I'm almost more proud of her personally than I am her professionally.
Yeah.
You know, she's one of those people that you want to just walk up and hug.
Right.
I don't know. I think she's doing a great job improving herself, knowing that you have to make changes and improvements to the self as much as you almost before you can see those changes in the business happen. So she's got her expectations in the right place, and I'm excited to see her continue to just grow.
She actually referenced how her confidence has improved and gotten stronger, and she admitted she still has work to do on that, but that's a big step in the right direction.
Pretty huge.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump in then. So comparison, and if you missed the other two podcasts on comparison or comparison exercise, would really encourage you to go back to those, find those. Very quick summary on that. I think most of us, at least in Aligned, know that we should be talking about comparative costs, comparative consequences. We can talk about comparative treatments, like comparing what we do in our office to what the options are outside of our office. What does that world look like? But we don't really go into a lot of depth with that. And we very rarely, if ever, talk about comparative burden. Like, what's the burden on the individual and the family and the coworkers when this person is trying to manage their healthcare situation? And what does that burden look like when they're in our office, improving quickly? And what does it look like when they're not in our office and maybe spinning their wheels? We talked about comparative dignity and your own right to dignity, and how sometimes there are treatments and things that have to be done outside the chiropractic office where dignity is now sacrificed, dignity is now in question. And then one that's really important to me is life engagement. Like, are you able to do the things you want to do, the things you've been looking forward to do, or do those things now have to be put on the back burner so that we can wait around for this doctor appointment, that's consultation, that imaging thing, that surgical consult, whatever. And I don't know about you, Dr. Zach. I hate to live a life in limbo, like just waiting around and not being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah.
That's frustrating. So those are some of the topics that we really touched on deeply. Those other 2 podcasts.
Yeah. When I heard that, it really struck me kind of at a hard level. And I don't know exactly why that is. My assumption currently is that just by nature, I'm more of a producer.
Right.
My mentality is just production, numbers. I just am systemized and just wired that way, where some people are wired more on the connection side of life. It's, with you do those analysis of personality profiles, you can have producers and connectors. The connectors may not have such a problem with this, not problem, but they might not have the difficulty seeing the depth of the burden of a health issue or health struggle that our patients bring to us. But as a producer, maybe if you're out there listening to this podcast and you're wired similar to me as a producer, this may be a huge oversight as a practitioner where we're not realizing the gravity of what's walking through our doors. That burden that these health situations bring to the life of that patient is everything. And sometimes as I go through life, we'll lose a loved one, somebody close to us. And when they pass away, it wakes me up, at least momentarily, to realizing this, this life, this world that we're actually living in, this how short life can be and how short it really is. And pulling me out of the routine, the mundane, the work mode of life, and just realizing what's really happening around us. I think that's sort of what this situation can bring to somebody. When we take care of a lot of elderly patients, a lot of people over the age of 60, the number one concern for them is independence. In other words, not being that burden to somebody else. They don't want to have somebody else doing all the things for them with self-care, showering, using the restroom, putting their socks on, like all the things. Right? That independence is more important than time, money, it's the most important concern for the aging population. So if we have somebody in their 20s walking through our door, the first thing I jump to traditionally is, as that producer mindset, what's the problem? Identify it. Let's start correcting it. And I take for granted that it's just going to get better. That's the way I view it in the world of chiropractic. And really that last podcast, it's going to have me changing my mindset. I'm looking forward to this now, jumping back into practice, because when I start looking at all of my patients through a whole different lens, and through the lens of full life impact of their health status, it changes everything. And it's going to really allow me to connect more with my patients. The culture within the clinic, I see that morphing, and I'm excited for that, because that's such a better culture. And it's so much more rewarding as a doctor to be able to help somebody regain independence, to avoid a future burden to a spouse or to a family. I've got a patient who's dealing with a lot of very significant disc issues right now. He's been a patient for about 9 years. When he first came to the clinic, he had his lower discs bulging out pretty bad. Consulted with a couple of orthopedics. They both suggested surgery. He just didn't want the surgery. He had gotten hooked on narcotics. It was pulling him down pretty hard. And his kids were having to put his clothes on, help him get his socks and shoes on. His wife was helping him to bathe and do all that. Like he was getting out of the game of life. And we, by the grace of God, were able to help him through chiropractic to avoid the surgeries for 9 years. And then fast forward to today, he had an injury and he started having some disc bulges again, not down low where they were before. MRI confirmed last week those lower discs are looking better now than the MRI of them 9 years ago.
Right.
Like, yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Get back on the humble train, right? Because 3 segments up is where his injury now happened, and the discs in the upper lumbar spine are now bulging out very significantly, and he's back in that struggle bus zone with, now it's hard again. I can't get dressed well. I can't get out of bed easily. It's taken me so much time just to get my day going. I'm the primary breadwinner. I've got now 2 more kids than 9 years ago. So he's got lots of family relying on him. And, he's back to that, seeing that burden returning that he was facing years ago. And it was a very stark reminder of how serious these health conditions are, not in just pain levels, but what it translates to in activities of daily living. What does that marriage now look like? What does that as a father look like? In his kids' eyes, he was back to having his kids put his shoes on. He didn't like that. Yeah. It was very, very real for him.
Yeah.
So,
how many times has a patient said to us, well, I was recommended surgery, but I don't want to do surgery. Have you ever asked them why? Like, why don't you want to do surgery? Or have you just always connected the dots like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either? I've asked them why. Why wouldn't you want surgery if that's what's recommended? The most common answer is, I had a family member get back surgery, and I saw what happened to them, and I don't want that for myself. Like, that's the number one answer. Survey says, ding, number one answer. I saw what that did to a family member.
I really haven't asked that question much.
Well,
that's interesting.
See, that's us avoiding the conversation of comparison. This person has already made a comparison with where their situation is today, with what they saw their family member go through, and they're praying, please let me avoid that. Let that cup pass for me. And they're coming to you and me with hope. Can you help me avoid what I saw my family member go through? They're already doing the comparison before they come to the office. You mentioned, and I'm glad it made an impact on you. I'm glad that's like going to help you with that connection and that culture in the office. You mentioned like the older generation, 60 plus. I'm 52, so I still think of a grandparent, a Medicare patient, white hair, a little frail, rocking on the rocking chair. Like, when I hear that age group, I'm thinking of my granny. Okay. That's not that age bracket anymore. You know what those people are doing? They're watching their grandkids. They're caring for their special need adult children. They are volunteering their efforts at the dog shelter, or they're helping out at this is one I love, the senior citizen center with all the old folks. Like, you're one of them. No, that's not me. I'm helping them, right? They're delivering meals on wheels. They're doing home, they are active and giving back. And they do want that independence, but not like my granny wanted her independence, like I'll do for myself. They want their independence and the ability to do for their grandchildren. I want to pick my grandchild up from school every day because my adult children are working and they're working hard. And that's my opportunity to have a connection with my grandchild or whatever. And I want to be able to do my gardening because I take the fruits of that labor, the vegetables, to church, and I give it to whatever, the food pantry. That's what that demographic's into right now, right? They're traveling. They're more prosperous than they've ever been. But they're not just sitting around.
Yeah, it's a whole different generation. Right. Yeah, it's a whole different generational mindset of that, quote, elderly population than the generation before them or them before that. So you're absolutely right. They are looking to live a more purposeful life.
There it is. Yep.
And impactful to the people around them life than say their parents or their grandparents. And so, yeah, you're touching on a pretty big thing. It's we have to get our heads wrapped around their true need behind the need, which is not just can I put my pantyhose on today?
Exactly.
It's, man, I got to put my work boots on today because I'm out here. I'm going to do this mission trip for my church, and I've got grandkids that I want to keep up with their sports, and I want to be active. I want to live life with the purpose I've put here to be.
And they should, if they've worked hard all their life.
I see nothing wrong with
now they're in their golden years. Then they're not committed to a job for 40 hours a week, but they don't sit around idly. Like they're investing that time back into their family or into their community or in their passions and pursuits. I love it when the older folks are picking up a new hobby like woodworking or painting or whatever. I mean,
before I hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
Dr. Owen, who started AMC years ago. Do you recall how old was he when he started AMC?
Yes, I do.
Give it to us.
Yes, I do. He was 65 years old.
I knew he was in the 60s.
Yeah, he started.
There you go.
He started a brand new company.
65 years old. Like his quote, maintaining his independence and quality of life with his health. That would not have been so he could just keep rocking in the chair on the front porch. Right. It's so he could start a company that would impact lives upon lives in the future of this profession.
And thank God for it, because had he decided not, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Right?
Me neither.
So I'm glad he had his health. I'm glad he had chiropractic. I'm glad he had that ambition to continue to serve. My wife and I are thinking about that. I mean, 65 is 17 years around the corner. 13 years around the corner for us. Wow. Getting old, folks. We're talking about how we want to spend that time. I don't want to retire. Like, I love what I do. I want to leave the back of the meeting room at the end of a successful summit one day and then collapse and be done with it, right? Like, take me on home. That's my goal. 80, 90 years old. But we're talking about traveling to see our children and traveling together and spending time with our grandchildren. We have no idea where our children will be, but it's important for us to be able to get to them and spend meaningful time. So we have to do a better job of thinking about it on those levels. Because if we don't, patients won't. I had another thought. You're going to have some resistance, and listeners, if you take this forward, you'll have an occasional resistance. Like, Mr. Jones, have you ever thought about? No, never thought about it. Like, you're not breaking that veil. You know what I'm saying? So if you've cultivated a relationship with patients who have gone that path before, now you don't have to break that veil. Hey, Mr. Johnson, come over here and talk to Mr. Jones for me. Mr. Jones, he's starting care before doing all that stuff that you did, but I'd love to hear him. I'd love to have him hear your story, Mr. Johnson, of what you did, so he can appreciate what he's avoiding, what we're saving him from. Now, he may not open up to you, but if he has a quote-unquote patient colleague.
Yeah. Another peer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So any other thoughts before we talk about culture and impacting our staff?
Well, I think it's as good. I think it's a good topic for us to start wrapping our heads around as current clinicians. We are in those trenches right now. Yeah. I don't care where you are in practice, 2 years in or 42 years into your practice, having your head wrapped around and understanding what people find important and what they value with this quality of life, not burdening others, the independence, the ability for them to fulfill their purposes in life. That's something that we would do well to think about, to bring to our practices on the daily, to help our team understand it. For me, obviously, I was not taking the time to understand that well or unpack that for myself. And here I am about 20 years into practice. And that's going to change the next section of my life of practice. It's going to change things as I continue to unpack that in my own world. But I don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in my office by myself. It takes a team for my office to accomplish what it does for patients. I rely on that team day in and day out to not only be proficient in all of the procedures and protocols that come with a properly ran office and structural rehab on top of that and all the things that we do, but we can't just have somebody in there robotically being able to do the protocols and procedures. They have to be somebody able to do that with the same heart as what we were just talking about. And I think that lays into that culture within our clinic. And that's not going to come by accident. Well, maybe, but it's like winning the lottery.
Right.
You want the odds in your favor. You're going to have to create that.
Right.
We're going to have to take the time and put in the effort to work on the culture within our practice amongst you and your team so that all of you are taking care of patients with a similar heart, with a similar purpose, a similar direction. And I think that's very synergistic. When you're all working, when a team of people are working together with the same end line in mind, the same goal, well, you get there a whole lot better than if my goal is this direction and your goal is that direction and this team member has no idea what's going on and this one does. No. Let's be cohesive. Let's all operate in the same culture.
What we're doing is just taking that recommendation of bring the case story to your staff, right? Because you know the story of the patient.
Mm-hmm.
You've done the consultation, you know the history, you know the x-rays, you know the results after 8, 9, 12 visits, whatever. Like, it's your duty as doctor to bring those stories to the staff because they may not know that case. They know Mr. Smith is improving because they see him working, moving better, getting up, smiling more, right? He's maybe even saying, I'm doing so good today. So they're aware of the improvement and the impact, but they don't know where he started. They don't know what he was up against. So it's just taking that, and listeners, if you're not doing that, you might want to just jot that down. Like, I need to bring case stories to my team meeting.
Every week we've started doing that, and it's been impactful.
Yeah.
What my hesitancy was, maybe this helps one of the listeners, even just one, it would be a good thing. I was first approaching it in terms of telling my team what's going on with a patient. And then what I found was my team interacting with patients saying something like, yeah, Dr. Wilson told me blah, blah, blah. And it actually wasn't the best. It was negatively received as if like telling somebody something about what you have going on is almost gossipy.
Right.
But that was not my purpose. It was in the words I was using, the phraseology. And so I would urge every listener to, if you haven't already, start bringing your cases from your patients to your weekly team meeting, not to tell your team about what's going on with the patients, but to inform them about their case. And when my team started having conversations with those patients, hey, Dr. Wilson discussed your case at our last meeting, and I didn't realize that this, and this, how important it is that you're here. I'm so happy for that. I'm so excited for you to be under care here. And oh my goodness, you just start seeing patients open up. They really thought that was a big deal that we took the time to discuss their case, because that's what it was. It was a discussion about the reality of their situation, of the severity of the condition, its burden and impact on quality of life, what the struggles have been so far, what has been working or not working in the treatments that they've chosen to do thus far, and unpacking that case for the team. Been impactful.
So if we understand that concept and we're actually making use of that recommendation, this is just another way to do that, but a way that the patient is now leading that case study, leading that discussion, answering those questions of, impact and burden and engagement and that kind of thing. And it's really critical, I think, because I can tell you as a patient, I can tell you what my history is, and you can ask probing questions, and you probably understand my future a lot better than I do. So together, we craft a vision of where I've been, where I am today, and where I may be down the road. But you can't tell my story better than I can. I don't know all the technical words, but I know my fears. I know my frustrations. I know my hopes. I know my disappointments. Like you were talking about the patient who, the kids are tying the shoes and putting the socks on and stuff. That's not what I want as a dad for my kids to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm letting them do that, but I don't want that. So you can't tell that story for me. That's my ability. That's my opportunity.
Yep.
So if we have a patient who can tell that story, who's willing to share, and we ask them those types of questions, the staff just gets to hear that case study from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Right?
Yeah, you couldn't tell somebody else's story better than they could.
Right.
And what you'll find, that patient telling something about that story that they've never even told you as the doctor
That's
before.
right.
And the doctor will stand there going, whoa, I didn't realize.
That's right. Some of the patients that I worked the hardest for, you're doing a professional job for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the patients that I worked the hardest for, or the patients that I knew because they told me what their immediate future looked like. Like I've had a patient who was, with complete seriousness, said if I can't help their headaches, they've got a shotgun at home that will. Now, you don't take that lightly. I don't think you say that to a new doctor as a joke, right?
No.
So I took that very seriously. And guess what? That guy, every time I walked into the room, I wasn't fighting subluxation. I wasn't fighting headaches. I was fighting suicide, right? And I worked so hard for the guy. The person who had the surgery that was scheduled in 2 weeks, and he's coming to me as a last ditch Hail Mary pass. Please pull me out of the flames here. I worked on him twice a day for 2 weeks. He came in in the morning. He came in the evening. I came in on Saturdays. I came in on Sundays, twice a day for 2 weeks, because I knew what was imminent.
Yeah.
And he didn't want that. So if that affects me that way, and now our patients are hearing these stories of our staff is hearing these stories of our patients, I have to think that they're going to think about what's at stake here and work harder for that person as well. You think I'm wrong in that, or you agree?
No, I think you're onto something right there.
Yeah.
I agree.
What do you think about the idea of videoing that interview process in an anonymous way? Like we'll keep the patient silhouetted or from over their shoulder or maybe from the nose down, right? We want to keep that person's anonymity, protect their what's the HIPAA, protect their HIPAA rights, right?
Privacy.
Does that make you comfortable? Does it make you uncomfortable to think about that? Do you feel like, I'm not sure the patients would go for it? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I got mixed feelings about it, to be honest. Years ago, I hired a videographer in my office, and I had a handful of selected patient cases I thought very interesting clinically, and they came in and did like bona fide interview video on telling their story with chiropractic.
Yeah.
They're on our website. They've just been up there for years, and pretty cool, pretty impactful, I will tell you. I'd love to go back and watch those because, that gentleman I spoke to you about, right? He's one of them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. We made years ago about this first issue and episode, but they were very nervous about that because they're not used to it. You're in front of a camera all of a sudden. A lot of people get very camera shy. And so you will, or you may run into some patients that are a bit more hesitant about it because of that. And it might not even be their privacy and they're as much as just the straight up fact that they're being videotaped. It's like public speaking is a big fear for people. Well, if somebody shoved a video camera in your face, said, hey, tell me about the intricacies of your life. Tell me your biggest, darkest secrets. Right? You're going to hesitate a little bit. Some people will. However, it also, when those patients got over that nervousness at the very beginning, and, you know, a couple of them even said, you know, can we just start over?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, of course. And they gained the level of comfort, and they were able to start talking. And once you start talking, it starts to get easier and easier. And then the ball started rolling and momentum was gained. And it was allowing them to really lay it out there. And I think therapeutically for them, it was a good thing, because some of them, you could tell it felt good to actually offload what they've really kept to themselves this whole time.
Right.
I could tell for at least two of them, it was the first time they had ever really shared with anybody the level of burden they felt they were to their loved ones. That's a big thing to get off your chest. It's kind of like that secret you've been holding in, and you just got to tell somebody, a best friend or a spouse, just get off your chest. And that's what it provided them.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, even though they were nervous, some of them, by them agreeing to do it, and you just coach them through it, and you just help them. You hold their hand along the way. Luckily, what we're talking about is you're doing this exercise with a person you already have a relationship with.
Right.
I would not recommend asking a brand new patient that you've only seen one time for an exam and like, hey, we're going to videotape you. Tell me. But start with somebody that you've known a little while, you've taken care of, you've built a relationship with, you have a good professional relationship. Especially
in the beginning, because it's going to be new to you, new to your staff. We're going to go through our own growing pains. Yep. I think you're okay to invite somebody who's new to the office once you've got some polish to it.
Correct.
And you make a valid point. You put a microphone in somebody's face or a camera on their face, and there's that little bit of, now they're trying to think while they're talking. And what I see that with the podcast, like we'll interview somebody on a podcast, and the first few minutes, they're so concerned about this thing in front of their face that they're not actually even aware of what they're thinking or what they're saying. And then they'll kind of settle in. I'll ask them questions, make a lot of eye contact, nod, right? And then if I can get the microphone to be background for that person, we're golden. What do you think about this as a concept? I understand completely consent, and we don't want a video without consent. Mm-hmm. What if we had the video camera rolling, didn't inform that it was rolling, and then at the end, we said, by the way, we video these, and we videoed yours. We don't have to release that. We can delete it if you prefer, whatever. What if we did it that way? What if we told them at the end that it was done rather than at the beginning? Do we have permission to do it? Like still get permission just at the end.
Sure. You could try that.
Yeah.
From my past experience, I play it on the other end of the spectrum where I give them a little bit of notice. I found it very good for the ladies to have some heads up, because they will give you the, well, if I'd have known that, I'd have done my hair today. Like, oh no, don't keep that video. It's a not makeup day, you know? So you may want, for certain patients, if you have, you know, a little knowledge of who they are as a personality. Some people, they could care less, like, yeah, sure, every day's a day. But some people, for a video, they might actually...
Think that'd be true for anonymity? Like if they were only shooting you from the nose down, or shooting you from behind the back over the shoulder, you think? People are weird, aren't they?
Yeah, people are weird. And it's all over the spectrum. You'll probably find some that prefer it one way, some prefer the other way. Yeah. I think just settling into a groove for yourself as a team, and what you feel comfortable with as a team, because what you're comfortable with, you will translate to comfort for the patient doing the interview.
Absolutely.
So if you're nervous about how you're doing it, that's going to come through.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're going to feel that. They'll pick up on it, and then all of a sudden they're uncomfortable. It's like, no. If you as the doctor and team are comfortable deciding this is how we would like to do it, if it were me, well, then that comfort comes through in how you interact with that patient. And that allows that patient comfortable enough to open up and really do what we're trying to accomplish.
Benefits outweigh the growing pains, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it very much.
Always a
and
pleasure.
Listeners, thank you for joining us as well. You can always reach us through mailbag at amcfamily.com. And we do love hearing from you. If you have anything you'd like to add about our episode today, please use that email feature. Until we meet again, I wish you the very best and God bless. Follow our show. You can share it with friends, of course, and we'd love for you to contact us at mailbag at amcfamily.com. In addition, you're always invited to attend or join us at a summit. Of course, registration is required, and we would love for you to check out the loads of free content we provide to social media every single week. Until next time.